So the best way to get something done, if you hold near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway, we're going to get a lot done. And if we have to, if there's complete lockdown and chaos as a consequence of the filibuster, then we'll have to go beyond what I'm talking about. Okay, hang on. Sorry. Oh, sing me, Ms. Kim.
Wow. Good heavens. The things that I do. The things that I put myself through. So that we can have these conversations. Good heavens. That was hard to do. Was to watch just over an hour of that very bizarre press conference. Incredibly just tepid. Just it's even tougher to watch what was going on because we spent it was 4 solid years of the media just attacking Trump. Just he'd go into press conferences because he loved being in front of those press conferences, and just 4 years of just attack after attack, and just the name calling from both sides, the accusations, the literal lies coming from the peanut gallery, which would be the reporters, and Trump right there, just swashbuckling. The places would be packed, even when they did the whole social distancing thing. Every seat that needed to be filled was filled. And just the vitriol that was coming from the press those 4 years against Trump. Just that alone was entertaining. Just that alone. It was like a reality show. It really was just like a reality show when Trump was in office. And this thing that they put together, oh man, Interjet Noise, YouTube, Parler. God bless you, Parler. Man, oh man. The things that come to find out that Twitter and Facebook were in on it as far as getting Parler removed, and whatever Parler has to go through in the future is going to be a Facebook thing. I think as conservatives and libertarians and anyone that wants to get on Parler, quite frankly, liberals, progressives, at least protect the format, protect the site, because it's Parler right now at this point is one of the very few that at least has a face, a name, has some sort of notoriety, that you're still allowed to say what you want to say without being a jerk. I mean, I take that back. Without trying to infringe upon someone. Your feelings don't matter. So if you see something on Parler and it breaks your heart, so what? Keep it moving. Don't look, block that, person, site, whatever, keep it moving. That's the way it should be, right? It shouldn't be fact checks, but okay. Hey, the Jet Noise again. YouTube, Facebook, Parlor. Maybe please visit me on Rumble and join, subscribe, follow, please, on all of those formats. But on Rumble, again, my Rumble family, thank you um, for clicking on and taking a remote interest in what I have to say, um, and getting you the updates and information that you need. Uh, the press conference yesterday, Biden was dull. Not that we expected any sort of excitement. It was like you have a father or grandfather in a nursing home, that's almost bedridden, maybe in his wheelchair or something like that. You go to visit him because you love him to death. And he still has a little memory of what's going on or what happened. So he's kind of stuck in that mode. He's not necessarily all gone, but he's pretty much done with what's happening today. And you're talking, how you doing, Grandpa? I'm all right. I had the Price is Right on yesterday, and they didn't give me my pudding yesterday. And knowing damn well they gave him this pudding. That was Biden. That was definitely that was Biden. It really was, man. It's like a guy in a nursing home who is, still in there, but it's pretty much done with the world today. And that's what I was getting from Sleepy Joe. That's what I was getting from Sleepy Joe. And it's interesting to it's interesting to try to even keep up with what he's saying, because it was one thing to try to keep up with what Trump was saying, because Trump was going like a million miles an hour, like all the time, right? And he says so many things, is that's where you would get the occasional gaffe or the occasional comment that some people found funny, and other people's the same comment. Some people found funny, and some people found rude. And he was always willing to be. He would remember when he would get off, like Air Force One, or off the what is it, Air Force 3, Air Force 2, the helicopter. You get Marine Force One. He'd get off, and the media would be over there. He'd walk over. Right? He'd have these little impromptu press conferences. Bang, 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 bang. And this, first of all, Biden broke the record, just blew it away, like by double of the longest time for a president to have a press conference. We know why. He can't do them. So then he gets the press conference together, and it was so incredibly tailored for him. It was produced. He might as well brought out his notes. His notes. He might as well brought out a phone book, an old phone book. He had so many notes. All the reporters that they were chosen well ahead of time. Obviously, the questions were, the questions were chosen questions. They couldn't defer too much. They couldn't stray too much from what the original question was going to be, and they didn't. There was a few questions that were softball questions that he got past, that weren't necessarily right in front of him, but everything he had. There was one time where he went to his notes to answer. He went to his notes completely to answer that particular question. It was tough to watch. It was tough to watch, and you try to joke about it, but you really don't want to make fun of an old man losing his steam, if you will. And one of the words that he mentioned, and this was when he was talking about the border. He mentioned the word dismantle, and I found it interesting. He said he didn't want to dismantle, or he wanted to dismantle what Trump put in place. And he was saying that was a problem, that none of it was working, what Trump was doing. But meanwhile, people are telling him there's some facilities that's like are over 1,500% capacity, which was tough. To hear someone say that, especially when the numbers indeed get down. He mentioned 33% of he mentioned 33% increase with Trump in office as far as people crossing the border, and there wasn't necessarily an increase. In fact, while Trump was in office, there was a decrease year after year, 2016, 17, 18, 19, and the only time there was an uptick was in 2020, specifically when we were told, when the world was told that Biden had won the presidential campaign, that Biden was going to be president. They insinuated that. So there was an increase in 2020, far less than what is going on now. Got some sounders of Biden, and let's go over to where he was asked, would he apologize? Because again, he mentioned dismantling the the Trump policies that were happening at the border, as if they were actually the problem. Because as he decides to roll back some of Trump's policies, all of this is happening at our southern border right now. Don't ignore it. Again, I told you, this is just a debacle at the south of the border, at our southern border. Now, it's not going to take but 2 years for it to become a problem. Here's Biden on would he apologize for rolling back any policies at the southern border.
First of all the policies that are underway were not helping at all. Did not slow up the amount of immigration and as many people coming. And rolling back the policies of separating children from their mothers, I make no apology for that. Rolling back the policies of remain in Mexico, sitting on the edge of the Rio Grande in a muddy circumstance with not enough to eat, I make no apologies for that. I make no apologies for ending programs that did not exist before Trump became president, that have an incredibly negative impact on the law, international law, as well as on human dignity. And so I make no apologies for that.
That's tough to listen to as well, because the policies, Trump didn't really change the policies as far as how those kids get handled, how those people get handled at the southern border. He didn't really change that. In fact, most of the policies were Bush Obama policies. It started with Clinton, as far as, okay, we got to separate the kids from the adults because we're not sure if these kids actually belong to these adults. Then there was the cages thing for Biden to just make up something about kids sitting at the edge of the Rio Grande with no food or water. That's it's not necessarily that he's lying, but he was painting a picture as if Trump was the one that was forcing them to sit right for those kids to sit right there, when in fact, those kids shouldn't even have gotten that far. So, but he was saying he was painting a picture that that policy is what put those kids in danger like that. And that's pathetic. That's desperate. That's desperate, and anyone that believes that, you're not being very kind to yourself. You're not being very kind to yourself. The idea that I should say Trump was putting these kids in danger is a lie. Again, if you believe that Trump was the one that's putting these kids in danger, he is not the one that sent their 9-year-old, their 10-year-old, because that came up, their 9-year-old and their 10-year-old. Speaking of that, one of the reporters had mentioned that she had ran into some 9-year-old, and they were able to get a hold of the parents of the 9-year-old. And that parent said that they sent them here because of Biden's rhetoric. That's Biden's rhetoric, and he turned it around, that was another sad part of that conference, where he says, "Well, I guess I should be flattered. They think that I'm a nice guy, that they would send their kid here." Well, you're not a nice guy. You're encouraging people to send their 9 and 10 and 6-year-olds thousands of miles to walk along with strangers on these long journeys, these incredibly long, dangerous journeys, because people are encouraged by you to send their little children in that direction. And that's an ugly thing, Mr. Biden. Here is one of his solutions. Here's one of his very frustrating solutions on how to fix this whole border crisis. On how his idea is, of course, the way you fix it is if you make things better where they live.
Why I've asked the Vice President of the United States yesterday to be the lead person on dealing with focusing on the fundamental reasons why people leave Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador in the first place. It's because of earthquakes, floods. It's because of lack of food. It's because of gang violence. It's because of a whole range of things that when I was vice president had the same obligation to deal with unaccompanied children. I was able to get it slowed up significantly by working with the heads of state of those communities to do things like in one of the major cities, the reason people were leaving is they couldn't walk the street because their kids were getting beat up or shot or gang violence. Well, what I was able to do is not give money to the head of state because so many are corrupt, but I was able to say, okay, you need lighting in the streets to change things? I'll put the lighting in. We got a contractor. We got the type of lighting. We paid directly to the contractor, did not go through the government. And violent crime significantly was reduced in that city. Fewer people sought to leave.
That doesn't make any sense at all. That makes no sense at all. Earlier this week, one of the solutions, that's what he just explained, was a little micro example of what his solution is. It's to just throw money at those South American countries. And what he just explained, I think that, this is what I mean, that he's not completely gone. Because he had mentioned that he didn't give money to, the leadership in I don't know. I can't remember what he was talking about. Venezuela, but whatever. He he said he didn't give money to the leadership. He made sure that he stuck that in there because what he's saying is that we, as the United States, who, and I'm already gone with the, the taxpayer thing, the taxpayer dollars, because what the United States is doing right now is just printing money. They need money, they just print money, and then they make the United States citizens pay for that. So, what he's saying here, that's a whole nother story. We're paying for their printing of money. What he's saying is that the best way to keep those people there in their home countries is for us to just give them more money. Millions, billions, trillions. And his little example was that Vice President of the United States, gave money to a contractor in a South American country to a contractor in a South American country for them to put up lights. They didn't have to go through government. Hey, like some guy just starts putting up lights in, Guatemala, and somebody's like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, dude, I'm getting paid by Joe Biden to put these up. And they're like, who? It doesn't make any sense for the United States to find a contractor in a South American country and say, hey, put up some lights. And they just put up some lights. And their government, it's just like, what? Oh, why? So his little lie there about just putting up some lighting to save the day doesn't make sense in another way, because if that was the answer, then why are they still coming? There is no simple answer. None. The true answer is that the governments in those countries need to be changed some way, somehow. I'm not going to suggest, because I only see one true way. And that can change it around quickly. There is the best way that I can't foresee. I know what it is, and it's unearthly. It's the only true way. Is the change. You have to change people's hearts, and right now those countries are in an extremely bad way, and they are forced in one way or another to come running to something that's anything that's better. And that anything that's better right now is the United States. So Biden's solution for stopping what's going on at the border, which is an obviously terrible and ridiculous solution, is to throw money at the United States. Here is it's changed gears here. He's talking about the filibuster, and this one's funny.
With regard to the filibuster, I believe we should go back to a position of the filibuster that existed just when I came to the United States Senate 120 years ago. And that is that it used to be required for the filibuster, and I had a card on this. I was going to give you the statistics, but you probably know them. That it used to be that from between 1917 and 1971, the filibuster existed. There were a total of 58 motions to break a filibuster that whole time. Last year alone, there were 5 times that many. So it's being abused in a gigantic way.
Did you catch that where he said he'd gotten into the Senate 120 years ago? Now, some people are saying that's a joke. Nobody laughed in there, and he didn't present it very well. If it was a joke, there's a way to tell jokes, and if you can't tell those, if you can't tell jokes, you don't, because people will miss the punchline. And he, in general, he is the punchline. So he said he was he said he joined the Senate 120 years ago. So we'll let that slide, because if it's supposed to be a joke, it wasn't a very good one. It wasn't delivered very well. And he mentioned also in his early days that there was a total of about 4 or 5 years, 4 or 5, 6 years. I can't remember the timeline that he gave, but he said there was roughly 58 filibusters. He said last year alone that there was 3 times that many. Okay. The problem with his argument there is that it was his party that was conducting the filibusters, right? Because Trump was in office, and there was, from the time Trump was in office to roughly, early 2020, there was like 300 and some odd filibusters. That was the Democrats just putting plugs in things because they didn't want Trump to succeed in anything. And most of those things were like judicial nominees. So there was a filibuster for everything, just daily, when it came to the Democrats not wanting Trump to succeed in any way. So his complaint is on his own party. And his own party was doing things, was filibustering, making things hard, causing roadblocks, simply because they didn't want Trump to succeed in any way. So the abuse is indeed on the party. And here's a little example. Before I get in it, last week, Barack Obama and Senator Elizabeth Warren had brought up, they weren't the only ones, had brought up the racist undertone on the filibuster, saying that it came up around the Jim Crow era, and how people were using the filibuster so that, to keep black people down, blah, 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 blah. So their analysis on the filibuster is that the filibuster is racist. This will make you giggle. Last Thursday, Elizabeth Warren said that the rules that date back to 1800s and requires 60 votes for most legislation to pass in the Senate is rooted in racism and should be removed because it effectively gives minority party veto power. Okay, yeah, that's what the filibuster is. It is the minority party trying to defend itself or trying to hold its ground. But is it truly racist? This is what she said. The filibuster has deep roots in racism, and it should not be permitted to serve that function or to create a veto for the minority. In a democracy, it's a majority rules. She's of course argued that in the middle of a renewed debate over the potential elimination of the parliamentary procedure. Warren noted that the filibuster was not included in the founders' original framework, but was later, quote, a later creation that was designed to give the South ability to veto any effective civil rights legislation or anti-lynching legislation. Okay, remember she's saying this is like incredibly racist. Now the irony is that not only did she just say that it was her political party that created the filibuster to desperately hold on to slavery, because if what she's saying is true, if she truly believes that, and they wanted to hold on to slavery, it was the Democrats that owned slaves. It was the Democrat South that was, they were the slave owners. So she is saying that my party, meaning her, was the one that put those things together. But the best part of her opening, that's sludge spigot, that she calls a mouth, is that Warren herself utilized the filibuster just last year against a black senator. It's where Tim Scott, in the aftermath of George Floyd's death, last June, Democratic lawmakers in the Senate voted to block police reform legislation put forward by Republican Tim Scott in that's South Carolina, that is, in the aftermath of George Floyd's death. The legislation failed to surpass the 60-vote threshold assigned by the filibuster, and only 3 Democrats in the chamber voted to advance the bill, and Warren was not one of those senators. So she's saying that the filibuster is indeed racist. She admitted, obviously, that it was her party, the Democrat slave-owning party, that put it into place. And not only that, she used it last year to filibuster a black senator, a Mr. Tim Scott of South Carolina. And it was successful in blocking his legislation. So, Mrs. Warren, or Ms. Warren, or what have you, are you the racist? Because it looks like it. It looks like you are the racist, because, again, you had told that you explained it very well, that the only reason the filibuster came along was to keep slavery in place. And you put it on a brother. And that's sad. Unprotected voting. That was another thing that Biden talked about, which was, just listen to this.
Worried about is how un-American this whole initiative is. It's sick. It's sick. Deciding in some states that you cannot bring water to people standing in line, waiting to vote. Deciding that you're going to end voting at 5 o'clock when working people are just getting off work. Deciding that there will be no absentee ballots under the most rigid circumstances. It's all designed, and I'm going to spend my time doing 3 things. 1, trying to figure out how to pass the legislation passed by the House, number 1. Number 2, educating the American public. The Republican voters I know find this despicable. Republican voters, folks outside this White House. I'm not talking about the elected officials. I'm talking about voters. And so I'm convinced that we'll be able to stop this because it is the most pernicious thing. This makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle.
Jim Crow looked like Jim Eagle. That was him trying to prove to the rest of the world that he's still kind of there. So he went to you can call it the Black Pastor speech. He went to the Black Pastor speech. He said, "This makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle," which is I'm assuming it's clever if you are, far further left than I will ever be. I get what he was trying to go for. But it didn't quite fit. It didn't quite fit in what he was trying to sell. One of the things he mentioned in that was that water was not given to people standing in line waiting to vote. Who in their right mind doesn't go to the voting, to their place of where they can cast their ballot, we'll say, without some sort of preparedness? Maybe maybe you should get something to eat, or you're planning something to get something to eat. Maybe you should just grab a bottle of water, put it in your purse pocket, hold it in your hand. Why is the polling place providing water? I heard of one polling place that was providing soft drinks and pizza. Soft drinks and pizza. Anything other than directions to the bathroom, anything that the polling place gives you should be, and is a bribe. So if you're standing in line and they're offering you water, or not offering you water, which is the way it's supposed to be, the polling place has had a Biden moment. Just this is why I can't make fun of Biden, because I'm having Biden moments myself. Any polling place offering you water or food of any kind is bribing you. You say, well, just because they give me a piece of pizza or soft drink doesn't mean I'm going to vote for them. Indeed, I'm glad you think that way, but somebody will. The bribery is rampant when it comes to voting. There's rides to the polling place. You say that's not a bribe. Yes. It's an incentive to even get up and vote. Because there's other countries far more hard-pressed than we are that will stand in line during explosions to vote. Stand in the line in the face of danger to vote. And somehow, here in the United States, you ever hem and haw about like, oh, when am I going to go vote? God, on voting day, or you're all thrilled because you're like, I get to vote by mail. Other countries don't do that. They have one day. They have an allotted amount of hours, in order to get their voting done, and the people fit their time in to vote according to the country's rules. Absentee votes are different than mail-in votes. People don't understand that. Absentee votes are people that can vote, that are allowed to vote, that can request a ballot and they can send in their vote. Totally legitimate. Mail-in voting, which is what the debacle that we went through last time. It's just random ballots sent out to anyone. There were people with pets. Their pets got ballots. Their deceased family members got ballots. Some people got 2 ballots because they may have lived in one place at one point and then moved, and they would get a ballot at their new address as well as their old address. Just random ballots sent out to anyone. A lot of deceased people in general voted. And for him to insinuate that there's racism behind this, what he called voter suppression, which is actually just, hey, can you just stick to the rules? Can you just vote? You've got one day to vote. It's every 2 years. If you only want to vote for the president, every 4 years. One stinking day to vote. Well, I have to work. It's one stinking day. It may be anywhere from 15 to a couple of hours that you might be at the polling station. If you haven't planned your bottle of water or having something to eat before you got there to vote one day within a few hours, within it's like I don't know, is it like 12 hours, 16 hours in order to in the good old days, it was, you had from like 7 in the morning until like 7 in the evening or something along that lines to vote. If you can't fit that one day to spend, again, 15 minutes to 2 hours to vote, then you got yourself an issue. All right? And again, if you're an absentee voter, God bless you. You go ahead and you request your ballot. Your ballot is, it has, legitimate tracking on it, so on and so forth. But the mail-in ballot thing is disgusting. And as far as getting gifts for voting, that's pathetic. That indeed is sad. So there is where the ridiculousness of what Biden was trying to portray and what the Democrats are trying to portray. There is no voter suppression. It is insulting. This is what I was trying to get at before. The race, the undertone of it being racist. This voter suppression that he called it is racist, is insulting. That in it of itself is racist. He's saying that they don't want voter ID, as if black people can't get voter ID. They can't get identification. That's sad. As if black people that come to vote can't find their own food or water. It is an insult to me, and it should be to anyone that's black, to hear such language. That somehow it's too hard for us to get things accomplished so we can cast a vote. It's mighty white of you, Sleepy Joe. Mighty white of you. I want to touch on this. This gives a couple of interesting kind of human interest kind of stories here, just to get away from this whole Biden schmuckiness. Um, California foster parents are reportedly being asked to take in migrant children. This goes back to the border, and I'm going to stray away from the muckiness, but we'll start here. California foster parents are reportedly being asked to take in migrant children by state agencies, and there is an option to house 26 or more minors. I'll explain. The Daily Mail released an alleged voicemail from the Community Care Licensing Division, which is part of the California Department of Social Services. Foster parents, Travis and Charlotte Call, informed the Daily Mail that they also received an urgent, quote unquote, urgent email from CCLD requesting to know how many children they could house. All right, this is part of their solution for the border, right? Take them out of the stuffed cells and start stuffing them in American citizens' houses. Important messages from the Community Care Licensing Division, California Department of Social Services. The email to the couple read, "Please respond to this urgent message from the Community Care Licensing Division. CCLD would like to know how many available beds you have to serve additional youth." Any email about as many of you were already aware, CCLD has been sending automated emails and phone calls asking you about available beds to serve additional youth. They are trying to address the needs of record numbers of unaccompanied children who are arriving from Central America, who are escaping impossible situations such as poverty, violence, natural disasters. Thank you for your sacrificial service to vulnerable children. It's an email. It's kind of nudging you. You've got to take these kids in. You say, well, you got a choice. That can change. We value you, and you're grateful, and you're so great. We are so grateful for your willingness to engage in this important work. The email offered 4 options for foster parents. Now get these. These are the numbers. They're asking you how many people you can take. Do you have an available bed capacity of 0? Yes, that's the exact available bed capacity I have. 0 to take in strange and unaccompanied children that are bringing in particularly disease and God knows what psychological issues. Available bed capacity is 1 through 10. If you have 10 beds in your home for children, strange children, you are indeed a saint. It gets better. Available bed capacity is 11 to 25. Now you're talking about some sort of like child care facility. Is it a foster home of some kind? Just can you take these kids? So that's the plan. Bring these kids with God knows what health issues, health and physical and mental health issues. Strangers completely to this country. It doesn't sound like they're trying to get them connected with their parents. Like they're so promising. Right? So available bed capacity 11 to 25, and it gets better. Available bed capacity 26 plus. Airplane hangar, bunch of cots. What are we talking about here? So again, it doesn't necessarily seem like we're trying to connect these people with their families because they can't. They know they cannot. Usually the maximum amount of children you are allowed to foster is 6. Travis Call said. We called our caseworker, and she told us that everyone is calling her because they are getting the same call. At any given point in the time, there are 30,000 plus children in LA County foster care systems alone. That has nothing to do with the kids that are coming through here now, coming across that border now. There's 30,000 kids, foster kids, in the foster care system alone. So to ask already certified foster parents to take on children from another country when we can barely take care of our own foster crisis doesn't seem beneficial to either side, because either way, someone loses a bed. There is that. And then the other thing that he had brought up, they're trying to push it on American foster parents. These kids and American foster parents. Biden also brought up Fort Bliss. Fort Bliss? A military compound. Fort Bliss will have 5,000 beds. This is what he said. Fort Bliss will have 5,000 beds to maintain illegal immigrant children. Fort Bliss. And he's saying he got that information from the Secretary of Defense. Fort Bliss, it's bad enough what our military is facing now. One, they want to get rid of red staters. They want to get rid of what they call extremists. Maybe too Christian, maybe a little too Republican. Maybe a little too want to defend the country. Rah, 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 United States, fly a flag. And just recently heard of an incident where the soldiers, the troops, one of the troops asked, can I at least put my bumper sticker of who I voted for? Well, maybe a small one. They were told, well, maybe a small one. Can I at least have a Bible on my desk? Well, somebody might see it and say, and then the letting in the transgenders, lowering the bar on the physical exam so that more women can pass. They're chipping away at our military. Chipping away at it, and that's something we'll definitely have to deal with. But Fort Bliss babysitting. Now they're going to be babysitters, and it's disturbing to hear that we're going to just go ahead and let children just kind of hang out. Children that aren't supposed to be here in the first place just hang out in our military bases. And it hurts. It hurts because those kids are not supposed to be here in the first place. I can see why they would want to be here in the United States and not in their home countries. And if indeed these parents are just sending their kids it's really not good parenting, but you're just sending your kids on these journeys, on this journey to get here alone. I can see why. Go from the horrendous conditions that you're in now to a much better situation being here in the United States. But you're doing it all wrong. You're doing it all wrong. And now the military is going to have to start babysitting. And they're going to, again, just like you said, the foster parent system is going to get It's already overwhelmed. But what it does is it takes the kids off the border, and it doesn't look like anything is going on. And that's it. Then, my favorite story of the freaking week. Through this gun violence, the shooting in Colorado, the shooting in Atlanta, and now they're coming after guns. Once again, I have a story that makes me smile. What do a trash can, recyclable collector, federal law enforcement, and Hunter Biden all have in common? Let's find out. On October 23rd, 2018, President Joe Biden's son, Hunter, because who else would this story be about, and daughter-in-law, Hallie, were involved in a bizarre incident in which Hallie took Hunter's gun and threw it in a trash can behind a grocery store. By the way, Hallie is indeed Joe Biden's daughter-in-law, but not married to Hunter. Hallie was Hunter's brother, Joe's son, that passed away of cancer. Hallie was Bo's widow. That Hunter divorced his wife, Kathleen, after Bo died, to have sex with Hallie. And, of course, make her life miserable. Right? And Hallie was just like okay with that. All right, so that goes to show you where Hallie's at. And the other thing is that Hallie took a gun, okay? She's married to a Biden. Chances are she's very left. And I'm sure she hates guns. We can assume. She took a gun. This is the mentality that we're dealing with here. She took a gun, wrapped it in a plastic bag, and threw it in a garbage can that belonged to her grocery store. Let's get on with it. Stay with me because it gets weirder. The incident began when Hallie searched Hunter's pickup, which was parked at her home in Wilmington, because of unspecified suspicions she had on Hunter. Hallie took the gun to Jansen's Market. It's a nearby grocery where the Bidens were, frequent shoppers at. There she tossed the gun, wrapped it in a black bag, and she threw it into a trash bin outside of the store. A gun in through a trash bin outside of a store. That is the mental capacity of being a Biden. Later that day, Hallie informed Hunter of what she did, and he instructed her to retrieve the gun. According to the police report, when Hallie returned to the grocery store, she found that the gun was missing from the garbage bin and reported the issue to the store. Police received the calls from the store's general manager and from another person, according to the report. The missing gun was was cause for heightened concern because the grocery store is literally across the street from a high school, Alexis I. DuPont High School. Alexis I. DuPont High School. So not only did she throw the gun in a garbage bin outside of a store, it was across the street from a high school. Now, I could say, well, she probably wasn't thinking about the high school, but I would lean more towards she wasn't probably thinking at all. That doesn't even begin the weirdness in this story. in comes the Secret Service. Secret Service agents approached the owner of the store where Hunter Biden bought the gun. Now we're at a gun store. The story is now has this at the gun store where Hunter bought the gun, and the Secret Service. Keep in mind, the Secret Service, Joe Biden did not have Secret Service detail at this time. This is in 2018 that this is happening. But the Secret Service somehow showed up at this gun where Hunter bought the gun and asked to take the paperwork involving the sale. The Secret Service show up at a gun shop and ask for the paperwork of this sale of this gun. Excuse me. According to the people, according to two people, one of them who was firsthand knowledge of the episode, and other who was briefed on a Secret Service agent after the fact. The gun, this is a tally that you're seeing there. The gun itself, the owner refused to supply the paperwork, which was the right thing to do, suspecting that the Secret Service officers wanted to hide Hunter's ownership of the missing gun and in case it were involved in a crime. So they did the right thing by not handing over to two guys, to Secret Service agents. How do we even know you're Secret Service agents? And again, I don't think that the gun store owner would have actually put this one together because of this situation. I'm not saying they're dumb or anything like that, but why would the Secret Service agents be dealing with a Biden issue when he's not supposed to have Secret Service detail at that time? The gun owner did turn it into the ATF because that's who you would turn those things over to. If you were a gun store owner. Keep in mind, the FBI also responded to the scene because they were already monitoring Hunter as part of an investigation that remains ongoing and that currently focuses on Hunter's taxes, which, quite frankly, they can go far deeper than that. I did way back in November to what what Hunter and the Biden family have been doing, but that's neither here nor there. Wait, it gets weirder. The story gets weirder. The Secret Service says it has no record of its agents investigating the incident. Take that how it is. Take that how you want to take it. And Joe Biden, who was not under protection at the time, said through a spokesperson he has no knowledge of any Secret Service involvement. Days later, the gun was returned by an older man who regularly rummages through the grocery store, the recyclables collector, trash to collect recyclable items, according to the people familiar with the situation. The incident did not result in any charges or arrests, but the alleged involvement of the Secret Service remains a mystery. Any involvement with the Secret Service on behalf of the Biden family or on its own initiative would be inappropriate interference in an incident that was already being investigated by the Delaware State Police, with the involvement of the FBI, according to the law enforcement officials. Oh, but the weird doesn't stop there. Hunter, when buying the gun, responded no to a question on the transaction record that asked, "Are you an unlawful user of or addicted to marijuana or any depressant, stimulant, narcotic, drug, or any other controlled substance?" Hunter answered no. The problem with Hunter answering no is that 5 years earlier, he had been discharged from the Navy Reserve after testing positive for cocaine. And he and his family members have spoken about his history of drugs. He spoke about his history of drug use. Lying on the form is a felony. Nobody ever really gets prosecuted for it, but it is a felony. And I would think that the son of the presidential nominee lying on a form that is supposedly supposed to keep the guns out of bad people's hands, that poses like a conflict of interest, right? In addition to the questioning, police called Hunter to the scene where he was questioned outside the store's loading dock area and explained he used the gun to target practice, according to the report, because we all use it for target practice. At one point, two of Jansen's employees, described by the police report as Mexican males, quote, Mexican males. The story is getting even more weird. Okay, first of all, Hunter lied on. First of all, the gun was thrown into a garbage can. Into just might as well call it a public garbage can because it's outside. Anybody could reach in there because this guy, the old man, reached in there and got it. It's across the street from the high school. Hunter should not even have the gun because he lied on the transaction. So, the Biden family, who's wants nothing but gun control reform, some sort of reformation, gun control, gun control, gun control. All right, they're already hypocritical. This whole story is making them hypocritical as to what is going on. And now the Mexican male thing comes up. You'll see why that's an irony and what makes them even more hypocritical. Walk past the loading dock. Mexican males walk past the loading dock area, and Hunter told the police officers the store had some suspicious people working for it. Hunter Biden. Dad, will you let all of those wonderful South American people, specifically the Mexicans, across the border? Absolutely, son. Just come on in. Just let them all in. Because that's going on now. Asked if he was referring to those two staffers, Hunter Biden said, "Y'all probably illegal. Yeah, probably illegal." I don't know why they spelled it like that, but that is the way they have in quotations. Yeah, probably illegal. I don't know if he, was trying to get a little urban on them. But now Hunter, who may or may not be thinking that he may or may not be in trouble for this gun, is now trying to redirect the authorities on possible illegal immigrants. Does your dad know you're doing that, Hunter? When the police officer asked Hunter whether the gun had been used in a crime, the officer reported that Hunter became very agitated. The officer, quote, became very agitated with me and asked me if I was intentionally trying to make him mad. Go to hell, Bunter. Bunter. Hunter, go to hell. Please. What are you going to do if I make you mad? What you going to do? You going to stop using cocaine? You tell me, bruh. When the officer asked Hunter whether he had been doing drugs or drinking heavily, he responded, "Listen, it isn't like that. I think she believes I was going to kill myself." Target practice, right? An officer asked Hunter whether he had called his father about the incident before he arrived. Hunter responded, "I have never called my dad for anything." Liar. After being questioned, Hunter retrieved the case for the gun, which he included the gun's serial number, from Hallie's house, and returned to the grocery store to hand it over to the police, according to the report. And that is my favorite story of the week. Hunter Biden is still a pig, will always be a pig, will die a pig. Beau Biden, who seemed to be the decent one of the Biden boys, is dead through cancer, and Hunter Biden is obviously fighting off cancer with cocaine, crack, and stupidity. Hallie Hunter, you're a pig. How disgusting was that? How long was it that you were with Beau but wanted Hunter? Because as soon as Beau died, you were sitting on Hunter's little Hunter. So, and that lasted long, right? Because there's no better person to get in a relationship with than a cocaine addict. Yeah. A spoiled brat cocaine addict. The son of a politician. That was my Friday edition. They are rare, and I'm glad I got this one in because it was right after the press conference of Sleepy Joe. That was really dull, incredibly unnecessary, and just bizarre. And I said unnecessary because we got nothing out of it. I mean, seriously, we got nothing out of it. There was nothing that they haven't mentioned or we haven't seen or that wasn't reported in some way, somehow, that got before that. And man, was the hot dog eating and chocolate eclair licking going on with the reporters during that press conference. By the way, they didn't give Fox News a question. Peter Doocy said, "Hey man, they skipped over me." He was cool about it. He said they skipped over me. He said maybe next time. So, you tell me just how important that press conference was with the old man that had like 7 mind freezes during the entire press conference. But anyway, enough of that. I'm going into the weekend, man. I am so happy that I got this Friday edition in because they're rare for me. So I'm gonna leave you with a little thought of take time this weekend to analyze what you're going to do throughout the summer, because I really think that through this past year, this summer, people that even are afraid of this whole coronavirus thing are going to take their summer back. They're going to take it back. They're not going to follow many of the rules and edicts and little things in place. They're going to take it back, and they have reason to. The elderly can get, and now 16 and over here in Ohio can get the vaccine. If you want to get the vaccine or you want to wear the mask or both, you can do it, but you can take your summer back. Go get it. Hopefully, I will be here Monday, and we can give you some updates, information, and whatever madness that's happening in the world, we can share it with each other. Because I don't have to be right. I just have to start the conversation. Until then, I ask that you enjoy your weekend. And I leave you with big hug. Be good. Be still. Enjoy your life.